Imagine sleeping in a tent, in the snow, with the temperature outside at minus 30 degrees. Now imagine you and 8 friends suddenly tear the tent open from the inside, not unzip it, tear it, and run out into a frozen forest with no shoes, no coats, some of you with nothing but socks on your feet. 60 years later, nobody still knows what terrified 9 experienced hikers enough to do that on the last night of their lives. This is the story of the Dyatlov Pass incident, one of the most famous unsolved mysteries of the 20th century. Scientists, journalists, and even the Russian government have spent decades arguing about what really happened. On January 23, 1959, 10 students and graduates from the Ural Polytechnic Institute set out on a winter ski expedition toward Mount Otorten, deep in the Ural Mountains. Their leader was 23-year-old Igor Dyatlov. One member of the group, Yuri Yudin, fell ill early on and turned back. He had no idea that decision would save his life. The remaining 9 hikers pushed forward. They made camp on the slope of a mountain called Kholat Syakhl. In the language of the local Mansi people, that name means dead mountain. On the night of February 1st, they pitched their tent on that slope. And then, sometime after midnight, something happened that made them cut their way out of that tent and run more than half a mile down the mountain, into the trees, in temperatures below minus 25 degrees, with the wind screaming around them. They never came back. On February 26th, a search party finally found the tent. It had been slashed open from the inside. Around it were footprints in the snow, some in socks, some with a single shoe, some completely bare. All of them led toward the forest. At the edge of the trees, searchers found the first 2 bodies, shoeless, wearing only their underwear. At first it looked like a simple case of hypothermia. But as the other 7 bodies were recovered over the following months, the autopsy results made everything more confusing, not less. So what actually happened? Over the decades, a few theories have risen above the rest. The first is an avalanche. In 2019, Russian authorities reopened the case, and the lead prosecutor proposed that a slab of snow slid down and hit the tent. It's the most scientifically respectable explanation. But there's a problem. The slope where the tent stood was considered too gentle for a typical avalanche, there were barely any visible signs of one, and researchers still can't agree on exactly what would have triggered it. The second theory involves the military and radiation. Some of the victims' clothing tested positive for unusually high radioactivity. That detail becomes stranger when you learn that 2 years earlier, a nuclear disaster called the KYSHTYM disaster had happened nearby, and at least one member of the group had lived in the contaminated zone while another had helped clean it up. To this day, many people in Russia still suspect the government knows more than it has ever admitted, feeding theories about secret military weapons testing. The third theory isn't even from the internet. It's the Soviet Union's own official conclusion from 1959, which blamed the deaths on what it called an unknown compelling force, and then sealed many of the related files. That vague, unsatisfying answer is exactly what kept conspiracy theories alive for the next 60 years, everything from secret weapons to something far stranger. But out of every theory, one question never gets a fully satisfying answer. Why did they cut their way out of the tent, instead of simply walking out the front? In 2020, the reopened investigation concluded that some kind of avalanche or slab avalanche was the most likely cause. But many independent researchers, and the victims' own families, still don't think that fully explains the physical evidence found at the scene. To this day, the Dyatlov Pass incident remains one of the most debated mysteries in the world. Which theory do you find most convincing, an avalanche, a cover-up, or something we still don't fully understand? Let me know in the comments. If you're into cases like this, subscribe, because next week we're covering one just as unsettling.